The next phrase we will look at in the preamble to the Constitution is promote the general welfare. Before I give you a quote from the high school students again, let me clarify the meaning of the words general and welfare. General here refers to that's kind of awkward. So, general here means affecting or concerning all or most people, places, and things. Welfare is not the current public assistance programs, but the health, happiness, and fortunes of a person or a group. So by dictionary meaning, the general welfare means the health, happiness, and fortunes of all the people, places, and things in the United States of America. You will see that in 1787, the understanding of the framers was essentially the same, if not a little broader than that. Now, back to our high school students for an interesting interpretation. You will be given freedom. You will be given liberty, and you will be given the opportunity to live in a just society. I sometimes really love the innocence that students can bring to a study. So now for some further study, though, we'll come up with some more specific interpretations, and these will still resonate with we the 5%. But again, let me insert here my belief that a vast majority of citizens and residents of the United States agree, not just we the 5%. So here is one resource's definition and statement about promote the general welfare. The concern of the government for the health, peace, morality, and safety of its citizens. Promotion of the general welfare is also a stated purpose in state constitutions and statutes. The concept has sparked controversy only as a result of its inclusion in the body, note that's body, not preamble, body of the US Constitution. The first clause of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution reads, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. This clause, which is called the General Welfare Clause or the Spending Power Clause, does not grant Congress the power to legislate for the general welfare of the country. That is a power reserved to the states through the 10th Amendment. Rather, it merely allows Congress to spend federal money for the general welfare. The principle underlying distinction means the limitation of federal power. So not to legislate for the general welfare, but to spend money for the general welfare. Eventually, this distinction inspired the only important disagreement over the meaning of the clause. Now, before I go on with what I am quoting to you here, I want to explore this disagreement. But I also want to refresh you on the content of the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, and to the people. So again, before we go on to explore this disagreement that came up at the Constitutional Convention and that then came up even afterwards, before we explore how it still plays a major role in our wildly different political agendas today, we need to remember that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Now, sometimes we and political parties forget that states' right and the people's rights refer to two bedrocks of the Constitution, not just the Civil War position of the South and the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. Our arguments today are based on the same Federalist and Anti-Federalist arguments that wrecked the Constitutional Convention and are heatedly used to bash each other in today's all-out political war. I say to you, the framers of the Constitution were able to work through these differences because they knew they had to if they hoped to preserve the Union. The Union we call the United States of America. And we too can do so again. If, like the framers, we will exercise cooperation, dialogue, respect, and problem solving, we too will be able to work through these differences because we know that we have to do so if we hope to preserve our country. If we do not, now, as was the case then, our country will be destroyed. So now, back to the article that was being quoted. According to James Madison, the General Welfare Clause authorized Congress to spend money, but only to carry out the powers and duties specifically enumerated in the subsequent clauses to Article 1, Section 8, or elsewhere in the Constitution, not to meet the seemingly infinite needs of the general welfare. Alexander Hamilton maintained that the clause granted Congress the power to spend without limitation for the general welfare of the nation. See, I told you, our current fights reflect here. So you see this ambiguity and the debate has required the Supreme Court to moderate the meaning of the limits of the general, moderate the meaning and the limits of the General Welfare Clause. It just isn't that specific in the Constitution. However, the Supreme Court did not weigh in on this debate for 150 years. And even then, the precedent they set has never been held strongly enough to declare a winner. And the question continues to produce a mishmash of interpretations that are not helpful to our discussion of the meaning to promote the general welfare. It is not so much a disagreement over what the words mean, but about what the Constitution, not the preamble, what the Constitution prescribes. Here's a slightly different attempt to define what promote the general welfare means. It reads, aiding and promoting well-being for the common good. Aiding and promoting well-being for the common good. Now, perhaps another day we can unpack the meaning of the term the common good. Suffice it to say here that it refers to the collective good in the definition just read. To promote the general welfare, the Constitution set out to give the national government the means to promote the general welfare or the well-being of all its citizens. Historically, this has been enacted in such things as improving transportation, promoting the agriculture and promoting industry, protecting health and protecting the environment, and also in seeking ways to solve social and economic problems. What the framers meant was that the Constitution and powers granted to the federal government were not to favor special interest groups or particular classes of people. So again, the limitation in their expectation. What the framers meant was that the Constitution and powers granted to the federal government were not to favor special interest groups or particular classes of people. But even that simple statement runs into practical problems, and especially when we're trying to correct past injustices. The business of being a representative government is not now, has not in the past, and will never be as simple as writing some words in black ink on plain white sheets of paper. Human beings and society do not yield to such simplicity. That is why we, the 5%, continuously call for cooperation, dialogue, respect, and problem solving to become the immutable foundation of politics moving forward. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "I consider the foundation of the Constitution as laid on this ground, that all powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states and to the people. To take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specifically drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of a boundless field of power no longer susceptible to any definition." Again, let me read it to you. Sometimes these writings from the past take a second reading for the pieces to fit together by our mind. Thomas Jefferson again. I consider the foundation of the Constitution as laid on this ground, that all powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to those states and to the people. To take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specifically drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of a boundless field of power, no longer susceptible of any definition. Now, that's not all Jefferson had to say, as you would expect. Another place, Jefferson says, the danger in the hands of senators and congressmen is that of instituting a Congress with power to do whatever would be good for the people of the United States. Now, I'm going to pause there because that sounds like that's exactly what we expect them to do. But again, remember, he's just talked about how those terms are too broad to be able to have any definition and any control, and will lead to power assumed by the Congress beyond the limitations intended by the framers of the Constitution. The danger in the hands of senators and congressmen is that of instituting a Congress with power to do whatever would be good for the good of the people of the United States, and as they would be the sole judges of good or evil, it would also allow a power to do whatever evil they please. Unlike public officials during Jefferson's time, our modern day legislators have a very loose interpretation of the Constitution. The result is that government has mushroomed into a monolithic bureaucracy, one that we, the people, need to regain control of. We, the 5%, rest our hope on John Quincy Adams' observation. Our Constitution professedly rests upon the good sense and attachment of good people. This basis, weak as it may appear, has not yet been found to fail. On this, the 5% is resting our hope. Our Constitution professedly rests upon the good sense and attachment of the people. And while this may appear weak, we believe, as did John Quincy Adams, that the good sense and attachment of the people has not yet been found to fail.